What's good, guys? It's Ronald Kabang, also known as UCapper from SportsMemo.com. We got Josh, aka at punt_school_school on Twitter. Yo, man, I know you got some things to say about this first half, especially with how physical Draymond and the Warriors were they're kind of getting away with some of that stuff. What are your thoughts on that?
They are. It's a strong home whistle. Let's just put it that way.
Yeah,
And I think
100%.
I think you had to expect a level of physicality from the Warriors in response. They needed to show a response, and the best way to show a response is to be more physical and try and impose yourself that way. But I think Boston took their punches pretty well.
Yeah,
They haven't necessarily bitten into any of the sort of baiting the Draymond seems to be hanging out there, which I think is really important.
yeah,
They're frustrated by the calls, I think, but they're doing a good job of just sort of letting it slide off their back and not being too agitated about that. Overall, I really like where Boston is right now. I mean, down two at the half with that sort of free throw disparity. And I think the adjustments that need to be made are pretty small. You kind of just want to start taking care of that basketball. I don't have the box score in front of me, but I'm certain that the points off turnover differential will be pretty strong in favor of Golden State, and that's probably the key difference at the minute.
It is 18-7 on the points off turnovers here.
Yeah.
One thing that surprised me. Let's get our guy Finesse in here. 1 second. Boom, boom.
Hey, you're a brave man, Ronald. Like having both of us on the show at the same time after we won.
I'll tell you this. Right before the show, I was telling you I had it all laid out. I was gonna take Warriors game 1 and Celtics game 2, but that plan didn't work out, and so I was like, you know what? My plan went to shit. Like, I got nothing on this game here. I was gonna look towards the under, but it was kind of too late. I seen it go from 215.5 down to 213.5 because I was out with my family, so I missed it. And I was telling you too, I was hoping Golden State was gonna be up more at half here, so I can get Boston in the second half. But I kind of don't like where it is. It's pretty close to where the opening number is.
Yeah.
Finesse, we were just talking about how Golden State was kind of getting away with a lot of physicality there, especially with Draymond, especially with Draymond there. Man, it was kind of crazy.
Yeah, people don't like when I talk about the whistles because but it's just clear. Watch with your eyes and you'll see. My thing is the no calls. I don't mind if they're blowing the whistle maybe a little too much. My thing is the no call. So, but we're just over it. We haven't gotten them the whole playoff, so I think we've adjusted well and. I've watched 72 minutes of basketball in the finals now.
Yep.
The Warriors can't fuck with us. They just can't. So
I can see it, and that's the reason why I put myself aside here, because in my head before pre-series I was like, all right, Golden State looks good here. They have a good spot here, and then you guys started talking about Boston and all this. Well, the thing is too, like, I don't have no skin in the game, right? I'm not a fan of either team. Like I'm in Seattle, so I don't have that, that fan affair. But you guys are fans of Boston. Sometimes people's like, all right, they're fans. They're just gonna be one-sided here. But at the same time, you guys know your team the best, so you guys can say that. You can kind of see where you guys are coming from. So it's kind of like two sides of the story here. People are gonna be like, oh, they're just fans. They're gonna say good things about them regardless. And we got another guy here. Shark is in the building. There it is. But yeah, I mean, like, respect to
you.
Can
I crash the party here?
Nah, man.
Can I crash the party?
We sent the invite, Shark. We're good.
I had to change the group chat to Celtics fans brag zone featuring Shark and Ronald here. So Finesse and Punt. I mean, guys, you're living the life right now. God damn.
Hey, I got two questions. All right. Robert Williams, he looked kind of hobbled there a little bit. I seen him limping a little bit. Second thing too, Al Horford 0 for 0. Those are two things that got to change, or at least one thing that got to change with Horford. Other thing is, do you guys think Robert Williams is actually hurt, or is it kind of game flow here?
I'm sure he's playing in a little bit of discomfort. I don't think it's at a level where it's concerning and that he's not going to be effective on the floor. I mean, his presence on the floor alone, I think, is already telling. Like when he's out there, the ability to sort of defer shots in and around the rim, even when he's not necessarily blocking shots, but just altering shots at the rim is invaluable. And I think that presence alone is going to be vital in the second half. So he mightn't be moving at 100%, but he's still going to have the level of impact I think that the Celtics need. I just want someone in the comments, or someone, Ronald, it can be you, Shark, it could be you, Chris, it could be you now that you're here. Someone tell me, because all game one, post game one, all I heard was the Warriors aren't going down 0-2. They're going to make the adjustments. They're an experienced team. Tell me what the adjustments are. Tell me what they can do on the court to change the dynamic of this series, because any adjustment they make, Boston's going to have a counter for it, because the lineups just aren't nice for Golden State.
I think oh shit.
If you, punt, I'll tell you exactly what it is. And we talked about this when we did the preview show. It's just psychology, really. It's not so much X's and O's. It's just psychology. It's energy. It's the fact that essentially this is a game 7 for the Dubs tonight. You know, you can't go down 0-2. So it's not so much that the Celtics are not better, as you've made the point numerous times. And I would not disagree with you at all. I think the Celtics are better in so many facets of the game. But again, in a game 7, and we talk about this all the time in any series, it becomes a one-off that is so unique in terms of motivation, where you're going to see that. And, you know, on the court, if I'll make one point on this game is playing exactly how the Dubs play basketball. I think we talked about this in the preview show, but the Dubs always come out with a reasonable to above average first quarter in these spots. Then they let down pretty significantly to start the second quarter, and then they make a push when they put the starters back in the last 6 minutes of the second quarter. So this is a Dubs flow, if we're being really honest here. And then take it one step further. Forget the historical Dubs for the last 8 years. The 2022 Dubs, as we know very well, love the third quarter. So I don't know if we're going to see necessarily that huge jolt, which we've seen before, which is like, you know, plus 12 to plus 18 in the third quarter. But I would be worried as a Celtics bettor or fan. And again, I have no skin in the game here, that the Dubs third quarter is their spot here. So just my take. And I keep saying that because it's nice to not have a little sweat going on here for the first time in 6.5 fucking months. But
and I think that normal Golden State flow, I think that's what we saw in game 1. You know, we're down 12 going into the fourth quarter, and we just don't give a fuck about a lot of things. So I just, you know, I'm looking at the box score, and I tweeted it out. You know, Derek White is simply outplaying guys like Jordan Poole, Klay Thompson, guys that were supposed to be the X factor to the dynasty. Warriors in 5, Warriors in 6, Warriors in 4. Like that was supposed to be the key. And I'm looking at it, and Jordan Poole 1 for 5. That's not very good. You know, Klay Thompson, where's he at? 1 for 8. That's not very good. You know, and I just, you know, we talk about adjustments. I see none. So
you know, the thing about what Josh was asking about adjustments, the first thing I was gonna say was keep Klay off the court. I think he's been someone that has been actually making the team worse at this point. You come in with Gary Payton, who could actually like play a little bit of defense, right? He's slowing them down. He's not actually he's not stopping nobody, but he's slowing them down at the very least. The other thing, if you keep Klay in there, he's not doing either. He's not helping offensively or defensively. So if you're asking for an adjustment, I think you gotta keep Klay off right now. Even Poole only played 9 minutes. I don't know, man. Both offensively and defensively, Klay and Poole shouldn't be in the court at this moment.
The problem is, I don't think that there's, and I said this earlier, I don't think there's a lineup Golden State can roll out that gives them what they need at both ends of the floor. You got to pick one. They can roll out a better defensive lineup, like you said. You play Gary Payton alongside Wiggins, and then you maybe go big with Draymond and Kevon Looney. But those 4 players alone helps their defense immensely. It gives them nothing offensively. There's no playmaking and shot creating between, you know, Draymond, Looney, Wiggins, and Gary Payton, if that's what you're going to roll with. So it's kind of a pick your own poison at the moment from Golden State. It's like, what are we going to do? Are we going to try and slow down Boston's offense? Because, you know, at the end of the day, they're still being able to generate the looks that they want. And I think that's probably the key part for Boston right now is offensively, when they're not turning over the basketball, they're getting to the spots that they want. The shot quality is really high. But the flip side is, if you roll out a really good offensive lineup and with a lot of shot creators and that features, Klay Thompson and Jordan Poole at the same time with Steph, then you're probably going to get eaten alive at the other end of the floor because there's just too many mismatches that the Celtics can headhunt.
It almost seems like.
And Ronald, if you don't mind if I jump in here. No, I think with Klay Thompson, it's rare, again, going back in this 8-year window for him to look so uncomfortable on the court. And I think it's just, you have to give a shout to just the defensive pressure that Boston is bringing. And they're bringing it on the perimeter and inside the arc as well. I mean, obviously Klay is a historically excellent 3-point shooter, but something people don't talk about enough is his efficiency off the dribble on the little pull-ups from about, 15 to 18 feet. And that's what he's not getting, because that's where he starts to get into his flow. It's not that every single game that he comes out and drops, 30 points in a quarter from 3. He's not as big of a 3-point shooter from the standpoint of just going for it like that as the contemporary generation. He is a bit of a throwback player, which is also why he's incredible defensively, if we're being honest. I would look at a couple things on court that I think is super interesting. His body language was awful. Yeah. And I just wonder why. I wonder, this is game 2 of the finals, bro. Like, are you hurt? Like, you shouldn't be showing signs of dejection, right?
What'd you say?
I don't know.
That's the experience. That's the championship medal.
I think,
and bro, like, what's going on? Like, what's going on?
Yeah, I think that body language is like, it almost seems like he feels defeated. Like he can't add right now. He can't add to the roster right now. He can't add to the lineup, and he's just like, fuck. Should I take myself out? You know what I mean? Like, if you look, obviously as a coach, you're going to see that type of body language and you're going to want to pull someone out, right? Because obviously if they look defeated like that, that's going to hurt the team a little bit more. Chris, you want to add on to that? You've been popping in and out.
Yeah, I couldn't get my my audio. I couldn't hear you guys. So I went to the live stream and restarted my computer. But yeah, I talked about it in the beginning though. Ronald, Finesse is a witness. I think Josh was on. We all might have been on for that. I talked about Klay, it being hard for Klay, and I went against myself because I didn't take his unders in this game, but I definitely think his unders are going to hit, Ronald. And for me, it's all about just Boston's ability to be able to switch everything on defense, right? Like switch everything on defense. We talked about that, and that's definitely holding true. Can you guys hear me? Am I breaking up?
Yeah.
Nah, you're loud and clear. You're frozen, but you're loud and
Yeah.
clear.
So that being there, and he's also a rhythm guy, right? Like we know Klay's a rhythm guy. So if he can't get into his rhythm, then those 3-pointers that he's typically used to making is not going to be there. This is also the best defense that Golden State has seen when we talk about being able to switch to pick and roll. So it's no easy looks, right? It's nothing easy for them. Boston has the best perimeter defenders collectively in the NBA. Yeah, he really looks defeated right now. I would agree with that. And just given everything that he's been through, to try to get back to this stage, it has to be really deflating to see that you want to do so well, but you can't because the defense isn't letting you. So it's like it's like two evils kind of meeting each other. Ronald, is what I'd add on how Klay's playing right now.
Do you guys, before the second half starts, did you guys place any second half bets? I think I'm gonna stay put on this one. I'm just gonna sit to the side and watch this play out.
Yeah, I took Boston pregame when it hit 5. 4.5 now. I still think there's value at 4.5. To be honest, maybe if you are confident in thinking that you're going to get the usual Dubs third quarter push, then maybe wait for that and then buy in at a better number. I actually think that the Warriors exploding like they did in game 1 in that third quarter probably works out well for Boston because it's kind of like a bit of a reminder and a highlighter. Like they're going to really push tempo coming out of this break, and they're going to have to match them in that regard. Especially transition defense, not be so sloppy with those turnovers because like I said at the start of the show, that's what's killing them at the moment. They're turning the ball over and you let the Warriors run downhill in transition. They're a different offense altogether. You get them in the half-court sets and I think the struggles are pretty evident. Like they cannot run their sets and execute like they want to do and that they're used to doing. And, they're getting in these late shot clock situations where it's like we haven't been able to execute our play. Now we just need someone to try and pull out a rabbit out of a hat almost in isolation. And Steph can do that for you in spurts, but outside of that, I don't think anyone else can do it in this series.
Yeah, that's tough. That's tough for them for sure. What do you guys think? So we see Robert Williams out in the second half here. He don't look as hobbled as he did like going into the half for sure. So I don't know. Maybe he plays out the rest of the game. Maybe it was just a little stinger, but that's a big piece there if he plays hurt. Yeah, I think man, I just this matchup here is a lot different than I was expecting it to be. But you guys called out a lot of stuff in that pre-series preview. I didn't believe it, but I'm
Yeah, I
telling you,
mean,
you guys convinced me.
Rondo,
And just watching that first game, go ahead, yeah.
any Golden State fan, I understand it's Golden State backer, so I don't want to juju any money, but any Golden State fans, I'd be worried as fuck. Okay, I'd be scared. Right,
Yeah.
we just shot 37% from the field, turned the ball over 11 times, and went down 2. It feels like deja vu from a couple nights ago. I'm not seeing it. I'm not seeing it. We talked about depth a lot on your show too. I think John brought it up first, and we all kind of talked about depth. Where is that depth going to be? It's Seth Curry. It's the occasional spur from Andrew Wiggins, and that's about it. That's really all I'm seeing. So where's that depth? There ain't no pool parties happening.
Mm-hmm.
That's not happening. So where's this depth? We talking about Derek White, same old guys, Grant Williams. You mentioned Al Horford with the donut in the first half. That doesn't concern me at all. That's not what he does. Game 1 was the cherry on top. That was the game of his life, first finals game ever. That's all cherry on top. He impacts the game in so many ways. So I'm not worried about that. If we win this game, right? Because I thought the Warriors were going to win this game too.
Yeah.
Same kind of script you thought, right? I thought Dub's going to take game 1, and then we'll take game 2 split and go back to Boston. So if Golden State fucks around and let us win this game,
oh shit, I can't imagine, dude. Like it just kind of crazy to think.
Well, here's the thing. I was just talking about this. I did a broadcast before. The Celtics always do the opposite of what you think they're going to do. So, I mean, you're the biggest fan in the world, and they're doing the opposite of what you thought they would do. So it's like, last year we saw a series with Dallas and LA, the Clippers, where the road team won the first 6 games. I think it was the first time in NBA history that had ever happened. And this is so off the record. I mean, like no prognostication. People start throwing bets out there, but I could see the Celtics stealing 2 here and then getting blown out at home in game 3. Like that's how obscenely unpredictable this team is. And you saw what happened in the conference finals. Miami throttled them in game 3 at home. And again, it's just all over the place with this team. And, I was making a comment on the broadcast I just did. One of the reasons I don't love the Celtics, and this has nothing to do with you guys at all, is because I really try to regulate my life on a daily basis and do the same thing. The Celtics as a professional basketball team are the polar opposite of any sort of regularity. They are all over the place, and they're hard to cap. I mean, I'm just being honest. They're hard to cap. They always kind of seem to do the opposite of what conventional wisdom would suggest. It's tough stuff with them.
Yeah. You got anything on that one, Josh?
No, I mean, like we haven't defended home court particularly well in the playoffs.
Yeah.
But when it comes to the playoffs, the only thing that I personally have always done is I kind of disregard previous series in its entirety. And every series is its own dynamic, and every series is its own matchup. And I think that the Bucks and the Heat posed a lot more for Boston to have to work out from a personnel perspective and a matchup perspective that gave them a little bit of trouble and put them in sort of uncomfortable positions. I also think that those 2 games going 7 was probably more a testament to them essentially having to throw game 1 in both situations because of injuries, personnel situations, the Miami one in particular. I mean, they played without Smart and Horford on 1 day's rest off of game 7. So
that was crazy.
They won 4 of 6 in both of those series. Which, when you kind of zoom into it like that, it was pretty convincing. And, if they had the luxury of longer rest and everyone being healthy and available, maybe they win both those series in 5 and 6 themselves. So, just given the way the finals are structured and set up with that extra rest and a little bit more X's and O's involved, I think I'm just a little bit more bullish on my Celtics position. I think if they sneak out a win here, if they ride this sort of, like I said, this third quarter storm a little bit, they go into the fourth with just 2 possession game. And I actually trust this team in the clutch against this Warriors team. I think the Warriors get way too much credit for, this experience and this fourth quarter showing. They haven't shown me anything in the clutch in any series so far. I mean, Memphis were better in the clutch than what Golden State was, and they didn't even have Ja Morant.
They didn't have Ja, yeah.
Yeah, give me Boston in the clutch in a situation where, these 2 teams are forced into half-court sets both ends of the floor. And ultimately, if they go 2-0 up, Yeah, I think the buy spot is always going to be Golden State for Game 3. I just couldn't do it.
Are you guys watching the game at the same time as this? Because
Yeah.
if you just watched Clay hit a 3, and we were just talking about body language, and some shit just flip the switch at halftime. You know what I'm saying? So that's one thing. It's kind of crazy. I don't know what Kerr does to to talk to his players and to kind of get that going in that third quarter. But if we see that same game script with them just blowing up in the third quarter, they need to continue doing it in the fourth. They can't just let out the gas pedal. One good thing is they don't have Iguodala here, so that he's not going to be on the court in the fourth. So we'll see what happens there. You guys, anything to add to that? I know you guys are watching too at the same time. So
yeah, I mean, Punt, I want to ask you a question because talking about this, we go through the playoffs, and this is just off the top of my head. But if we go through Boston's calendar in the playoffs, how many tight games have they really won? They've won a ton of blowouts. And in the first round, I remember game 1 against Brooklyn, the Tatum walk-off bucket, obviously that first game. But other than that, Punt, I'm going to throw it right back to you, obviously. But how many close games did they win against Miami? Wasn't it mostly blowouts?
Yeah, it was mostly blowouts, 100%. And I think the fact that they lost that game 6 and then they let Miami back in game 7 is kind of what highlights everyone's opinion that the team can't be trusted down the stretch of games. And that the fact that early season they were one of the worst clutch fourth quarter teams in the league, but we know they were a completely different team pre-January to what they are post-January. And you're right, they haven't been in these situations enough. But I think the Warriors haven't been challenged in the clutch themselves either. And the couple of times where they have been, they've looked bad as well. So neither team necessarily has looked great in those situations. So I think just defaulting to Golden State based off of history is just a dangerous tightrope to walk when you, I think, have to sort of just look at this individual series itself. And in the one game and the half game we've seen so far, half court sets, it's Boston by a pretty lengthy margin. It's when Golden State's getting out in transition that they make these runs. And in the clutch, it's always going to be half court sets. You're not going to be able to play in transition in the final few minutes of the game. So yeah, I think for me, it ultimately comes down to who do I trust in half court offensively more? I actually think it's Boston. And who do I trust half court defensively? It's definitely Boston. So that's why I end up where I do.
Let me throw this. Go ahead.
Ronald, just let me just speak on this for a second.
Yeah.
If you go back to that game 7, that was a massive, massive backdoor from Miami in the last 2 minutes of the game. Boston was in complete control. So again, this is where I'm going with this. That was still sort of a blowout. It was not really a bucket for bucket second half, where I just don't think we've seen any sort of functionality with this Boston team in the playoffs in that sort of game. The only game that comes to my mind for the Dubs was actually game 1 at Memphis, where they were up most of the game and they gave it back late and they were down, I believe, a bucket. Clay actually hit a big 3 on the wing and they came back, didn't cover the spread, but won the game. It was like a 1-point spread. But again, it's just this crazy snapshot to how the playoffs have been played across the board. It's just been blowouts everywhere. So we're so data deficient as to how these teams play in one bucket games back and forth in the second half. It's crazy how the playoffs have played out, really.
Yeah, the other thing too is like we just talked about what I was looking at too before the series started was how well Golden State was at home, and then the other thing is how well Boston plays on the road. But then when you look at how Boston has played at home in the playoffs, it's kind of a different story. They haven't covered at that same rate, as they did on the road. Do you guys expect that to kind of flip here? I'm talking to the Boston guys. You go ahead. Let's go to Finesse here.
Do I expect us to start having success at home?
Yeah, at home. Yeah.
Yeah, listen, I think this game is obviously important. Obviously, game 2 of the NBA Finals. Like I said, if Golden State lets us win this game and we go back to Boston, I don't think all of a sudden kind of traveling to Boston is going to change a whole lot of stuff. A lot of stuff that Josh was talking about. We're just too good on offense, on defense. We're too deep. Everybody's too versatile. And we're really starting to see the holes in this Golden State defense. And like I said, we talked about it in your show before. The depth is a major problem. The starting 5, 1 through 5, how the versatility on offense, being able to defend 1 through 5, having guys that can do it all. I don't think going to Boston changes anything for Golden State in that aspect. I think if we lose this game and split, I think we split in Boston. And I think what's up?
Robert Williams looks hurt right now.
Oh gosh.
We just talked about how important he is to this roster.
He looks hurt or just
he looks hurt. He was already hobbled in the beginning.
Oh, Marcus Smart rolled into his ankle.
Yeah,
bro, what is happening right now, bro?
Yeah, he walked it off though.
Okay, yeah, but that's just how he was kind of limping earlier in the game too. Okay, yeah, he's walking it off, but that looked pretty bad the way he rolled into it.
I think I'm one possession behind you guys here, actually. So.
Okay, okay. Yeah, I'll let it go.
No, it's all right. Don't worry about it. But yeah. I'm just seeing this now. I was still back on the Klay Thompson layup when you said that.
Oh, okay, yeah.
So Williams out of the game right now?
No, he's back. He's back.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, he's walking it off. It just looked really bad the way he rolled into it. It could be just adrenaline, right at this point, right?
It did. I'm just looking at it now. I just got it. It's one of those funky ones where it looks like a guy bangs into your knee from the side. That's where you tear your ACL, MCL type of shit. That's ugly as fuck right there.
Yeah, it looked pretty scary.
Yeah, for sure.
But yeah, so I think but sorry to cut you off there, Finesse.
No, you're good, bro.
Yeah, that was a big play there to see that happen. But I think I think it, like Punt School, so like what Josh said was every series is going to be different. There's always things that you could take away from what happened in previous games, but if it's not the same opponent, if the game style, the game script is not the same, it's always tough to kind of bring back those games. But I don't know. It's always a good mix of things, right? You want to balance how you cap these games. You want to see how they do historically in specific situations, regardless. But also you want to see how they did against teams that are similar, because they only played each other twice, and it was never the same roster. So there was so much like what Shark was saying. It's pretty unpredictable. So having these first two games to see how they go was kind of invaluable. It was almost like where we could have just stayed off that first game, see how that went.
Yeah, I mean, we had said that actually coming into it, how Boston had come out in the previous series because they were just on such a quick turnaround. And I mean, you saw what happened. I mean, Josh, you and I both know this. You remember Game 4 at Milwaukee? They were down 2-1 on the road, about to go down 3-1. Well, they would have been in a really tough spot, actually. And they came out and they played exactly how they played in Game 1 of this series. They were down going into the fourth quarter, and they just went off. They scored, I believe, 40-plus points in that quarter. And, the craziest thing, and I think I'm adjusting to it as a fan and a handicapper, is just how this game plays with these teams shooting the three ball at such a high rate. Because, of course, you go back to Game 1. I mean, let's be honest. Al Horford all of a sudden became like Steph Curry in his prime in the fourth quarter. And it's like, that's hard to predict, I think, at least. I mean, if Tatum goes off, it's one thing, or Jaylen Brown. Al Horford is like the ultimate outlier guy. I mean, he went off in the Milwaukee series after Giannis fucking sunned his ass, and he got pissed off. But, like, Game 1, I mean, fourth quarter in Game 1, where did that come from? I mean, Josh, like, where did that come from? What's going on?
I think, again, the issue with obviously the variability in the three ball is enormous in the modern NBA period. But the one takeaway from Game 1 that I think you got that same level of variability from the Warriors. Like Otto Porter was 4 for 4 from deep. Him and Iguodala went 5 for 6 off the bench from 3. Like that's an outlier in itself. And then you had Tatum and Brown, who Tatum didn't score well. Brown scored well, but they both shot horrendously from deep in that game. And then it's flipped to this game. So they carried the load in that first half. And ultimately, I think it just comes down to, are those perimeter shots of high quality, and are the guys wide open, and are they in rhythm and in their spots? And so far, I think Boston has done a better job of that. Whereas you look at some of those, especially the Jordan Poole threes, where it's like contested step back over someone, like it's not even close. That's forcing a three, and that's just living and basically praying for the outcome. Whereas, it's a little bit more sustained, I think, for Boston in terms of their ball movement and the ability to find the open man in the pocket in particular. So with this series, more so than the variability of who hits their threes better, it's, I think, going to come down to who can more consistently generate the better looks from deep. And hopefully there's some sort of correlation between that and the team that makes the most.
Yeah, that makes a lot of sense.
Yeah, Josh, you said a really good point. I think Golden State is relying on a fireworks show. They're relying on getting hot and winning in big margins, while Boston can consistently beat you in so many different ways. And I think that's the problem. And we talk about Al. I think Al's had it in him. He just had it right here in his heart, like the whole time, just waiting to unleash it in a perfect moment. So Al's built for these moments. You know what I'm saying? Whether he puts up, 3 points or 33 points. I love me some Big Al. I love how he plays the game, how he impacts the game so much. So, and that's why, like, I didn't put a dime on this game. I made some cash in game one. I didn't put a dime on this game, and I don't see myself really doing so going forward. I just want to sit back and enjoy watching these young boys play ball and shock the fucking world.
Yeah, I think especially in this series here with how close these two teams are, like we said in the first game, the line is telling us that this is in a neutral court, that this would be pretty much a pick'em, right, on a neutral court here. And if you already have a series bet on it, I would probably sit tight as well. Just kind of run with it. But like Sosa out here, Clay out here building condos. Yeah, we were just talking about Clay and how he's been struggling. But I think one thing to note too is I don't know if this is going to be moving forward, but what the correlation between Boston here not scoring, right? I think it seems like games that are going to go under, it might be the way that Golden State wants this to go. If games go over, it might be Boston's, because we can see Boston being a better offensive team because of their depth, right? Right. So we're thinking, all right, if you want to outscore a team, Boston's going to be that team that outscore Golden State. There's going to be times where there's these fouls going to be called and not called, and frustration builds, and that kind of gets into the psychology part of you playing and you struggling offensively. So those are things here that I'm seeing today where, it almost seems like there's a little bit of frustration here. You can see the technical foul here on Boston leading up to that. You know what I mean? So there's just some stuff here that I think it's almost correlated. Unders will probably go Golden State's way and overs going Celtics' way. What is you guys' thoughts on that?
I will say one thing. I think it's important to note. We talked about this in the Boston series against Miami. Games 1 through 4 kind of played all over the grid, blowouts across the grid. And something about these series, people don't always think because everybody's too zoomed into the moment. When you zoom out and you look back on this and say it goes 7, which there's a good chance it will, games 5, 6, and 7, when it's tied 2-2, which I presume it could be very easily here, are just a 3-game series. And across the NBA Finals is very unique. It's June 2nd through June 19th. That's 17 days. So we talk about this in a 7-game series just generically. It's hard to say I'm going to bring my biggest energy every single game for 48 minutes. So the first 4 games kind of take on this abstraction and this flow back and forth. But all of a sudden you get to game 5, you're tied 2-2. The game's completely changed. And you saw how Miami played in the first 4 games. They were all over the grid. And then it became, as we saw, much tighter in games 5, 6, and 7. And I think just as a real loose comment, I expect this series to go deep. I don't think this is going to be a 4 or 5 game series. And I think it's going to completely flip in terms of the pace, shot quality, and ability to score in games 5, 6, and 7. And I'm actually looking forward to coming back on with you guys in game 5, 6, and 7 and talking about this as a reference to this point, how the first couple of games are actually, crazily enough, within one series in the NBA Finals, totally different versus the later games in the series.
Yeah, I want to keep this going. I think this is really great conversations to have, especially in the second half. Being able to watch the first half and kind of discuss what happens and things like that. Also, what do you guys think? I hit this comment here by Sosa with Rob Williams being unplayable in the fourth quarter. You guys want to respond to that at all?
Is that a typo? Did you mean like Grant Williams? Maybe?
Finesse already responded. Go ahead. Say what you.
That pretty much wraps it up right there. Yeah, that's pretty much it right there.
Chris, you got anything to add to that?
About
Rob Williams not being playable in the fourth?
The only thing I can think of that Sosa may be thinking is that the small ball lineups come back into play again, right? So you have Al Horford at the 5, and then you have Draymond at the 5 on the opposite side. That's the only thing I can think of. Or maybe he's injured, more injured than we think he is. That's the only thing I can think of. Robert Williams in the lineup, Ronald. I read a stat right before the game. One of the Boston reporters tweeted out that with the lineup as constructively started today, the Boston Celtics haven't lost a game in the finals with that lineup starting. Mm-hmm. That's Jason Tatum, Jaylen Brown, Marcus Smart, Robert Williams, and Al Horford. They're undefeated with their lineup starting in the playoffs this year. So, yeah, I don't see a reason why he's unplayable.
I have a question here. All right, so we talk about Golden State has the death lineup. They call it the death lineup here. With Poole being kind of out of it right now, right? We're not expecting anything from him at this point. Thompson, like everyone else in the chat, is saying he's building hotels and malls here with the bricks. Do we expect Gary Payton to be inserted into this lineup here in the fourth quarter to close it out?
Who?
Because Gary Payton.
You can't.
You don't think so?
You can't close it. You can't close with Gary Payton. Surely, again, if you have Gary Payton closing for the Warriors, you're giving yourself a 0 offensively. In a situation where the team is already lacking playmakers outside of Steph, and you're probably what's the lineup with Peyton? Like, I assume it's Steph, Wiggins, Draymond, Looney. That's the lineup.
No, I wouldn't put
Horford. In. I mean, you said
would you put Looney in there? I don't know if you would. So
I think you have to. That's the only way you can close with Peyton, though, right? Like,
did you leave off Klay Thompson there? No Klay. Clay's not there.
Well, I mean, I assume the only way that Peyton comes in the lineup is if Clay's out of the lineup.
Yeah. I mean, honestly, I don't think Kerr is that adjustable in this point, if I'm being honest. I don't think he's willing to adjust that big. I think it's kind of like live and ride with my guys, period. I mean, this is like his OG hats here. Like, he's not going to move it that big. No way.
So it would be Payton over Poole at that point, because Poole is literally not doing anything offensively or defensively.
As a Boston fan, I want Poole playing 25 minutes a night. Give him the ball in his hand. Let him try and play me.
See, but Josh, this is what it's come down to. It's come down to us talking about Gary Payton in the closing lineup and Bjelica playing 5 minutes in the first half of the NBA.
Yeah.
This is what it's
that was tricky. I was like, why
it's
did
sad.
it?
Yeah. And look, I mean, if Bjelica is going to play like he did for that 5 minutes, that was the most productive 5 minutes I've seen from him and from probably anyone on the Warriors bench outside of when Porter went a little bit nuclear and went 3 for 3 in a quick span in game 1. But you're right. They're struggling to find productivity outside of that core. And the fact that core features Klay Thompson, who is, it's fair to say, a shell of what everyone wanted, expected, hoped for from Klay. They're in a situation, man. They're in a situation. The longer this series goes, the more it's going to favor Boston ultimately.
Yeah, and Josh, another point on that. I made this comment going back across the whole season, of course, but something people don't entirely realize is when a team makes a run like the Dubs do in the third quarter so consistently, Boston can honestly say to themselves, just let them go here. Let them overexert their energy. And then all of a sudden they're going to cap out in the fourth. Like, I'm watching it right now. Steph Curry's on the perimeter, lockdown, as if it's the final minute of game 7 on defense. He doesn't play like that the entire game. He's not superhuman. He's going to fatigue in the fourth quarter. And I mean, that's what you saw in game 1. They actually do fatigue because they go so fucking nuts in the third quarter. And that's why in the regular season sometimes, as we say, the quarters and the halves are so great to cap because it's so consistent and teams know it's going to happen. They let it happen and then they make the pushback.
Mm-hmm. And to that point too, Shark, Golden State, we think about them being nuclear in the third quarter, and it's not always their offense. One thing I will say for all the Golden State fans watching this and want to, just some kind of, sigh of relief, is that when Golden State plays this well in the third quarter, it typically starts on the defensive end, right? Like right now, we got 3 minutes left, 3 minutes and 4 seconds left in the third quarter. And Boston has scored a grand whopping 12 points in the third quarter. And that's with all of the starters on the floor. So that actually bodes well for the Golden State backers. But just to kind of piggyback off what you were saying, Shaq.
I agree with that defense because not just the extra energy and effort on defense, it's the active hands in the passing lanes, it's deflecting passes, it's doing a little bit more to disrupt the flow of Boston's offense. And when you do that, that then good defense leads to good offense. Like that's just basketball 101, right? Like, and you're right, it does start at that end of the floor for them. But how sustainable is it? Like, for the full 24 minutes coming out of a half, I think we saw in game one, it's not, especially when you break up that lineup that starts the third quarter. That's when you start, allowing little runs to let Boston creep back into it. Like the gap is 14 now. Like if Boston gets it down to like 8 to 10 with like 10 minutes to go in the fourth, like it's game on. It's absolutely game on at that point. Yeah, you're right. It's how much, can the Warriors like really push to close, not just to close out the third, but then to start that fourth and keep that separation is going to be key.
Yeah, Josh, just one final point, and we'll throw it back to Ronald here for this game flow. But as we look at the playoffs, again, we have not a lot of games to look at. So we're always looking at every game. Why did this happen and what happened? This game could, if Boston does not push back, this would be at Miami game one, where Boston was up at the half, third quarter, Miami absolute obliteration. Boston did not push back there. And so we have seen this Boston team get hammered in the third quarter and not push back in the fourth, just as much as sometimes they do push back. And, of course, that centers back to the point that they're very unpredictable. So, Ronald, throwing it back to you.
Yeah, so I saw the recommendation to put Gamecast on here, so hopefully you guys can see that. But yeah, you can see.
Switch it to the other dashboard. I think it's the Gamecast.
Oh, the first one that I had up.
Yeah. That one's better, bro.
That one right there.
Yeah, facts.
Okay. Yeah, you can kind of see here. I mean, obviously, Golden State is taking this third quarter again, like they have been. Pretty much all season long. That third quarter has been something that they've been successful with. But with this being, what happened in the fourth quarter in game one here, do you guys think that Golden State's going to let off the gas pedal like they did in the fourth in game one here? Or are you going to see most of the starters here to start off that fourth quarter and kind of keep it going?
Yeah, that's a good question. That'll be interesting to see. When do they rest Steph in particular? Because obviously the offense really falls apart when he's not on the floor. That's a really interesting one to watch. I don't know what the answer is here, but yeah, that'll be interesting to see what they do there.
Yeah, and as I just made the comment, Boston, again, is so inconsistent in this position. They sometimes do make a huge push and win the game outright, which is, an egregious backdoor. If you're getting in-game bet, you're getting obscene implied odds there. And then other times, again, game one at Miami, they got hammered in the third quarter, and it was just too much. And, truthfully, again, I don't have a side here, and maybe I have a little bit of bias because I do want to see a tight series. But I do think if the Dubs really get this up to 16-18 here, it's a big ask to come back from that.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, 10. I mean, 10 is a lot different than 16 or 18 for sure. Yeah. I definitely agree with that.
Also, Ronald, I think most of the time when you talk about these teams that make it this far, they typically learn from their mistakes. We talk about Boston being an extremely resilient team throughout the playoffs, but also Golden State as well. Neither one of these teams have lost 2 games in the playoffs back to back, and I think you typically learn from those mistakes, right? We saw the way Boston loses games, they typically turn the ball over. They don't shoot it at a really good rate, and then the following game they typically do something different. And I think with Golden State being put in a situation that was extremely similar with a minute left, up 15 points in the third quarter. I just think that it's a situation that they learn from. And you hear Draymond talk about it in the post-game interview. He said, he makes comments like, we stopped moving, So I expect Kerr to make sure that those guys are moving and not just watching Steph, and not just playing a bunch of ISO ball late in the fourth quarter, but running a lot of their actions that they typically do and getting into the sets that they typically get into to make sure that Boston defense has to continue to move. And it's not just, let's try to wind the clock down and hope that we can squeeze away a win.
Yeah, that's really well said. And I think that even watching them coming out of half here, running like a higher screen for the pick and roll and that opening up the floor for them as well, is pretty paramount. Like Boston's going to have to adjust, whether they make that adjustment this game or they look back at the film and say, okay, we need to adjust to that high pick and roll a little bit more, and whether it's, blitz and trap before they get there. But that's certainly probably the biggest takeaway I think from the Warriors offense in this game is that small adjustment has helped them open up the floor and spacing in this third quarter in particular.
Yeah, and then we just talked about Poole and his inability to do anything offensively and defensively. You can kind of see the roster that Boston has out there right now with White, Pritchard, Williams, and Tease, along with Tatum. He's I don't know I actually don't know why Boston has that lineup out there. It's kind of confusing me at this point. Maybe I don't know.
He hit that one too.
That's what I'm saying.
Yeah, damn.
You don't want to give.
No.
Yeah, you don't want to give anyone like that, like jump shooters like that, any type of confidence, regardless of whether or not they win this one. That people like players like that, they're gonna bring that into the next one. That's a lot of confidence that you don't want to bring into, especially a player like Poole. But yeah, we were just talking about him, and we were just talking about him not being able to do anything, and you bring out a lineup with Pritchard and White and Tease out there with Williams. I don't know. That's crazy.
Yeah, I just wanted to quickly jump off. I'm going to get off here for the fourth quarter, guys. Great chat. Thanks for hosting, Ronald, and of course,
appreciate it.
The best of vibes to all you guys. And again, I'm loving taking a step back and watching as a fan, something I don't get to do very often. So.
It's actually pretty dope. Yeah.
It's great. So anyway, enjoy the fourth quarter, guys. We'll talk probably next game and we'll get in there. So
100%.
Cheers up, fears down. Let's have some drinks. Let's enjoy this one. I'll see you guys.
Take care. Yeah, that was an interesting third quarter there.
They are who we thought they were, Ronald. Come on now. Okay.
Hey! I'm just saying, another third quarter.
Exactly.
Do you expect this third quarter trend to continue during the series?
What was that, Ron? Is that 35-14?
35-14. Damn. Yeah, 14. Yeah. That's a tough one.
They better win this game.
They better win this game for sure. But do you think though? Like, all right, so you guys, the Boston guys here, what do you think about this third quarter thing? Game 1 and game 2. Golden State takes over in the third quarter by double digits. Here, I think game 1 was by 20 points around there.
Game one was weird. Like they didn't run anything differently. Like I watched it back as well, and it's not like they ran different sets offensively. Like they pushed pace a little bit. The shots were falling. Some of them were actually difficult shots, and they just hit them. And sometimes you just tip your cap to it. And I think that's why Boston weren't deterred going into the fourth quarter, is the fact that they did play pretty well in that third quarter. The Warriors just hit. When guys hit shots like they do, there's not much you can do about it. It's about staying poised and controlled, and I think they were. This quarter, from what I could see in the background here, I actually think they made some smart adjustments offensively. Like I said, running a higher screen for the pick and rolls just opens up the floor a little bit more for them, gives them more space, and they need to play in space. It's if you can't play in transition, you have to play in space. You don't want to get locked up in those half courts. So it's about how do Boston respond. Like I said, it'll be interesting to see what they do in this fourth quarter. Do they just pull it? I mean, I'm happy at 1-1 going back to the TD Garden. So
yeah, you guys said that. You guys said that in the series preview too. If you guys can take 1-1, that's exactly what you guys.
That's the question now, right? Like, how much does Udoka want to show? You don't want to show your entire hand here. Like, you just let it play out the fourth quarter. Maybe if you start off 10-0 or something like that.
Give him 3.5 minutes, see how it goes, and then make a decision.
Yeah, you got to make some sort of call there, not just for health reasons, but it's like I said, it's about you don't want to show everything. You don't want to show your entire.
It almost seems like that's what Golden State did in game 1, right? Like they put in these guys like Iguodala, Porter, that lineup that started that fourth. They was like, all right, well if they could kind of hold this lead a little bit, maybe we could just rest our starters. And Boston ended up getting that momentum that didn't let up. They just kept going. It almost seems like that's what they did in game 1. Yeah, man, this is gonna be a fun series.
Jordan Poole makes 2 threes, and I got text messages, tweets, notifications, DMs talking about pool party. Like, you see You see what I'm dealing with,
Yeah.
RC? Come on now, bro.
Yeah. All right, so now we see Bjelica is back in. Poole,
Whoa.
Payton, Thompson, and Green. All right, so
Belisa, bro.
I'm sorry, Belisa. Sorry, Belisa. I don't know.
Sheesh.
Hey, if they're gonna leave Bielitsa on the floor, we're live here. I don't care if we're down 30. Like if that dude's gonna stay on the floor,
basically got your starting lineup in, except for White.
Oh man.
There it is.
Yeah, it'll be interesting. Like I'll watch the game back as well and see. But I think
any thoughts on Smart? Smart here going 1 for 6, not really being as aggressive, especially shooting the 3 ball.
Yeah, he hasn't had a great game execution wise. He was criminal in terms of his turnovers as well, trying to force those passes inside
in the first half,
into some really tight spaces. I mean, even some of them were like, even if Tatum took a lot the bounce, like he's literally swarmed by like 2 or 3 guys. So
it's a pool party.
There you see it. There it is. He's going off. Yeah.
But yeah, like I said, I think at this point, after this timeout, like let's just pull the plug, rest the bodies up. You don't need to do too much more. You watch the film, you make the small adjustments, and you go defend home court from here.
And shout out to the Warriors doing what they're supposed to do. But our job's been finished. You know what I'm saying? So
1-1.
I see you back at the Garden. You know what I'm saying? So we can split there, and then I see you back in the Bay. You know, it's all going according to plan.
Yeah.
Except
you think? Do you think? It's really gonna see. We got to see how Boston holds home court. If they can take both, damn.
Series is over. Series is over if we take both.
If they take both, they got to split that. They got to split it. There's no way that they can come back down 3-1.
No way. No way. I can't see a world, even if the Warriors win this by 50, I can't see a world where the Warriors win 3 straight against this team. Not a chance.
So let's say Golden State does win this game by 20, 25 points. What's you guys' outlook on game 3? Is it a Boston spot? It's obviously way early. This game is not even finished, but what are you guys' thoughts on that?
I think Boston is, regardless of how big they lose here, they're still going to be favored at home. By 3, probably by like 3.
3.5 at least. At least 3.5. It opens 3.5. I think it gets slammed pretty quickly up to 4. To be honest,
you think it flips that much? That's like a 8.5 point swing.
Yeah, massively. I mean, just based off like looking at the conference finals as well. Like they seem to value home court at about 3.5 points for teams from the conference finals onwards. So they're saying that on a neutral, this would probably be close to a pick. I think that this is going to be 3.5 minimum for Boston. And like I said, I think it takes action pretty aggressively and early as well. So I'll be on Celtics at opener if it is 3.5.
3.5. Well, shit. If it goes 2.5, like what Finesse is saying, if they do that traditional like 6 points or so,
2.5. That's too light. That's too light.
Yeah, man. This is, oh my god. I can't imagine being you, Finesse, and Josh right now at this point.
Ronald, I'm happy. Nobody told me we were going to be here. Nobody told me we were going to be here. Nobody, not even me. I don't know Josh. I don't know if he can say he expected us to be in the finals.
Nah, I didn't. Like, I mean, I've been riding this team every series because I can see the strengths that they have in every single matchup. So once we got like series to series, I was like, okay, I think it's happening now. But it doesn't take away from the enjoyment that we're just in the finals and that we already took game 1 and we're going back home with the series split. So, the Celtics haven't lost 2 games in a row all playoffs. Simple as that. All they got to do is just keep that going for the rest of the playoffs, and the championship's there.
And we win. Yeah, we win.
Yeah.
Chris, did you have anything on this game? Sorry, Josh. No. Go ahead and finish.
No. I'm good. Chris, I don't know if you have anything in the game. What are you going to take Celtics game 3? Where's your head at if this finishes up as is?
Yeah, man. I think.
Go ahead.
Chris. Go ahead, Chris.
Now, what was you gonna say, Ron?
Oh, I was gonna say I think the way that you guys were, we always talk about the revenge spot here and how well the Celtics do in these back-to-back spots. Like they don't typically lose back-to-back. The issue here is just like the travel spot right? And then how they haven't really been that strong at home throughout the whole playoffs. So I think it's another thing where I'm just probably gonna sit that first half and see if there's anything to play in the second half. Like if the Golden State brings momentum into that third game here in Boston and have a lead at some point in that first half, then yes, I would go Celtics to close that game out. But I don't think I'm gonna play at this point. I'm probably not gonna play anything pregame. Chris, you wanna?
Yeah, Ronald. To that, I would say I think Josh hit the nail on the head already. I think what is it 7-0 after a loss in the playoffs. I mean, I take them, at home. They want to play in the Garden, the other Garden, that the Knicks play in. Make it at Staples Center, Crypto.com. I don't care where you take them at. I'm looking to back the Celtics off a loss every single time. I made so much money backing the Celtics off a loss that I hope hopefully we get an even better line if they can keep this at a 29-point lead right now. I'd be willing to jump on Boston early in this one. I know the public sees a big win like this for Golden State and they probably automatically want to back them again, but I talked about this early in the space, man. I said, if Golden State wins this game, I can see Boston, a lot of the Boston players and even Udoka, at the podium saying, we did what we came to do, which was still win and go back, whether it's game 1 or game 2. I think they're happy with the outcome, but then it's back to the drawing board. So yeah, I would look to back Boston in game 3. I don't think that the role players for Golden State will play as well on the road, and I look for the Garden to be rocking. I look for them to be able to bounce back and play well. And to Josh's point, Marcus Smart is the head of the snake for me anyway when I'm thinking about Boston. And I don't typically back Marcus Smart after he's played extremely well, or if it's not a do or die situation. He seems to bowl really, really well in those situations where he's called upon. So, game 7s or, specifically after a loss, Ronald, I'd be looking to back guys like Marcus Smart to come back and hit some of his player props as well, maybe his threes, maybe his assists. I think they make it extremely difficult on Golden State again. We've seen, what they can do defensively to kind of irritate Golden State a lot. And one of my big plays I'll probably jump on, Ronald, is I'm gonna go ahead and look at the lines as soon as they drop. Mr. Thompson, that wears the headband, his unders. I'm not about backing Klay Thompson. Specifically on the road, away from the crib. I talk about the length already that Boston poses and the defensive intensity that they bring towards the game. It'll be a lot of them kind of motivating and hyping up Andrew Wiggins because they're gonna need him, Josh. They're gonna need him, Ronald. They're gonna need him, Finesse. I just don't. Clay's just not that guy for me. Watching him play right now, he's not that guy. So I'll probably be sprinkling on his unders as well, Ronald. Just depending on what I can get the line at. I'll evaluate it too, but what the eye test is telling me is to take Klay Thompson under, just based on perimeter defense.
Don't forget to add Jordan Poole unders to your bet slip. That's all I'm going to say. Do not forget to add Jordan Poole unders to your bet slip. Points, rebounds, assists, all of it. Like he still might not even go over today, and he's having like a good game. Like this is supposed to be a pool party, and he's still going to stay under his props. Like this is not the series for him, man, and it's only going to get worse on the road. That's going to just keep being the top look until they properly adjust it.
Yeah, I was during the series preview too that we did with you guys, I talked about Grant Williams and how he's not going to have the same impact that he did against that Miami team. What do you guys think that he will be able to turn things around here, because he hasn't played exceptionally well either? I know he's one of the bigger guys that you want to bring off the bench. It really off the bench here. You guys talk about depth, but we're only seeing Derek White make a big impact offensively. Do you expect anyone else like Grant Williams or anyone else to come out and show up in game 3 here?
Yeah, the role players always play better at home. And I think Peyton Pritchard will probably get a few more minutes. He'll find his shot and rhythm deep and give him, 8 to 10 off the bench, which is all you need. I think Grant Williams, like you said, probably gets us that 8 to 10 again when you're back home off the bench. That's all you need from the bench production anyway. And Derek White to just keep being what Derek White is. And that's an absolute menace at both ends of the floor for the Warriors. They're struggling to come up with a solution to him, I think. He's able to disrupt defensively really well. He harries, he hassles, he's in the right positions. And offensively, when he's aggressive and he's able to get to his spots and he's knocking down wide open shots. If they're going to keep disrespecting him from deep, he seems to have proven that I think he's a genuine shooting threat at the moment. So I think that there's a world where Grant Williams becomes more vital in this series. Like I said, I want to go back and watch this game, and I want to watch the third quarter specifically because game one, a lot of success that Boston had was actually matching the small ball lineup. When they only had one big on the floor, they were like plus 31 in 16 minutes or something like that. They haven't run that in game two. I don't know if that's by design or decision. I think they run it back again in game three, where they're going to run a lot of small balls at the, both at the same time, and even when there's both Looney and Draymond on the floor as well, just to try and disrupt and show something different. And if that's the case, then I think that's when Grant Williams becomes really important to this team.
Yeah. I think one thing to note too is just how this game started. Period. With key guys getting in foul trouble early for Boston, and some of the non calls too. That's just like I don't know if you guys grew up playing basketball, right? And you're kind of playing against a sixth person. You kind of messes with your head a little bit.
I think the fouls are what threw like Jaylen Brown out of rhythm. He was just on fire in that first quarter. And then he picks up two really quick ones and just soft as hell and never looked the same when he came back off the bench. So, I hate blaming refs. I do. But, I mean, it was a pretty kind whistle in the first 24 minutes. Like, you can't deny that.
Yeah. I definitely agree.
The whistle's the only reason it probably didn't get out to double digits early. And then it's a different game flow and you're asking for a different response from Golden State as well. So,
honestly, real quick on game three, I just got done talking about how I just want to kind of sit back. I don't see myself putting any money on the Warriors. I'm not trying to any aspect to root against my team, but if this line for game three opens up at a 2.5 or 3, I really don't see myself staying away from that at all. So bounce back spot. Tatum kind of got his shit going today. So I think we go in, and I think Chris brought it up. Them early markets, looking at first quarters, first halves, it's going to be very interesting. So I can't see myself staying away from a 2.5.
Yeah, I was hoping that we can get a number going here. All right, so we got game 3, Boston 3.5.
And, Josh called it. He hit the nail right on the head.
Yep, 3.5. 3.5 Boston. Total at DraftKings is 214.5 and Caesars 215.5. They actually
I'll take the 3.5, and honestly, I probably take the Warriors team total under as well in that spot. You're going to get a better defensive effort from Boston at home for sure, and I think it's going to be a slower pace when Golden State's on the road. Just looking at how they've played road games in the playoffs traditionally, it's going to be a little bit more of a grit and grind type game. So. Yeah, give me Boston at the line. I'll be playing that, and I'll look into a team total under.
So that's I just want to bring that up here. Game 3 here, 3.5, 215. Yeah. I know they have some future numbers here at one of the casinos, but I don't typically trust those because my book doesn't have it available. So, but I think usually the day of or during this game here they would pop in. 3.5, good call on that, guys. Damn, that is it almost seems like a Boston number right there for sure.
And we got to get some Golden State money coming in, right? Has to happen.
Yeah, I mean this is early. This is real early. This is going to change a lot. But the thing is here, look at this. And this is one thing that I want to continue talking about too. Is just these taking the money percentages, man. Like everyone's just going to be like, I'm a fade Golden State here because it's public money type of shit. Like, don't do that, guys. Do your Kevin. Trust your process.
100%, man. 100%. Yeah. Anyway, I'm out of here, man. I need to go get something to eat. It's lunchtime over here.
I'm gonna cut out 2 guys, Josh, Finesse, Chris, and Shark as well for popping in. Thank you guys. Hopefully we can continue doing this. This shit was fun, and I think I love that Gamecast aspect of it too. So whoever recommended that, thank you to you. Yeah, man, really appreciate it. I'll hit you guys up game 3 and see if we can do it again.
Yeah, let's do it then.
Appreciate you having me, RC.
Yeah, I was gonna say appreciate you as well, Ronald. Hey, shout out to Jay in the chat, man. He was on that -4. I was on the
Jay's
cash, Jay. Yeah, let's cash, baby. Hey,
Yeah,
appreciate
man,
that, guys. Appreciate you for having me, Ronald. Josh, I'll talk to you soon. Finesse, I know I'll talk to you soon, my brother.
Yes, sir.
Yes, sir.
All right, peace, guys.
Yeah, have a good night.